Hello, welcome to the digital prologue for our production of Anastasia the Musical, directed by Jiva's artistic director, Elizabeth Williamson. Before the show begins, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about this story, where it comes from, why it has endured, and why I think it still matters so deeply today. My name is Sarah Hartmann. I'm the former interim literary manager at Jiva, and I was the associate director on the Broadway production of Anastasia, as well as currently setting many of the international productions that are still running today. So, many of you probably are familiar with the 1997 animated film, and I think that this is a wonderful place for us to start because the journey that this show has taken from its animated film to the stage musical that you're about to see, it tells us something very important about why this particular story endures. In 1997, Fox Animation released Anastasia. It was a film featuring the voices of Meg Ryan and John Cusack, with songs written by composer Stephen Flaherty and lyricist Lynn Ahrens. It was a beloved film, and its music burrowed into the hearts of an entire generation. Journey to the Past became an iconic song that generation has never really forgotten. The film also featured Rasputin as its villain. He was a supernatural, larger-than-life figure with Bartok, a talking bat sidekick. It was a fairy tale, and a wonderful one, but it was a very different kind of story than the one that would eventually make its way to the stage. 20 years later, Ahrens and Flaherty, the same composer and lyricist, returned to the story. This time, with playwright Terrence McNally, they set out to reimagine it for the Broadway stage. And it's worth noting that our own director, Elizabeth Williamson, served as the dramaturg on that original Broadway production. So tonight's show is in extraordinarily knowledgeable hands. So the result of this was a stage musical that, as its authors have often said, grew up with its audience. Rasputin is gone from the stage version. In his place is Gleb, a Soviet officer whose father was among those who carried out the execution of the Romanov family. He is complicated, conflicted, and rooted in the real history of the world that the show depicts. He's not a supernatural villain, he's a human being trying to make sense of this world that he's inherited. And of the songs that you know and love from the film, the most beloved are still here, including Journey to the Past, Once Upon a December, Paris Holds the Key, Learn to Do It, but the majority of the score was written fresh for the stage. New music for new characters, new moments for a story reimagined. Even the placement of familiar songs was reconsidered. So in the film, Journey to the Past is Anya's first song. We hear it early on, right when we're meeting her. But in the stage production, it's been moved to the end of Act 1, where Anya stands on the precipice between her past and her future, about to cross into Paris. So the song now sits at that hinge of the show itself. And for those who know the film very well, listen for echoes. There are themes from songs such as Rasputin's In the Dark of the Night, or the iconic song At the Beginning that played over the credits in the film. Those themes from those songs surface quietly throughout the score. They're present, but transformed, kind of like the way a memory might return when you least expect it. The Broadway production opened at the Broadhurst Theater in April of 2017, which an interesting fact here is that the Broadhurst Theater itself first opened in November 1917, the very same month as the Bolshevik Revolution that sets this entire story in motion. Nearly a century separated those two events, and yet the story found its way there. Since Broadway, the show has been translated into over a dozen languages and performed across the world, in Germany, Japan, Australia, the Netherlands, Spain, beyond. Wherever it has gone, it has found an audience, which raises a question worth sitting with. Why? Why does this story keep finding people in every language, in every culture, across a century of telling and retelling? So part of the answer lies in the fact that the story of Anastasia isn't only a story. It's also, or was also, a genuine historical mystery. One of the most extraordinary of the 20th century. When the Romanov family was executed in the summer of 1918, the truth of what happened was concealed for decades. In the uncertainty that followed, a question spread across Europe. Had anyone survived? And of all of the Romanov children, it was Anastasia, the youngest daughter, whose remains were not initially recovered, who became the center of this question. So over the years, more than a dozen women came forward claiming to be her, but one woman's claim eclipsed all of the others. So in February of 1920, a young woman was pulled from the Landwehrkanal in Berlin after a suicide attempt. She carried no identification. She refused to give her name. Only after 2 years in a psychiatric institution where she was known only as Fräulein Unbekannt, Miss Unknown, she began to claim that she was the Grand Duchess Anastasia Nikolaevna Romanov, and she became known as Anna Anderson. What followed was one of the most extraordinary and one of the longest legal sagas of the 20th century. The court proceedings became the longest-running lawsuit in German history, lasting 32 years and ending not with a verdict, but with the statement that she could neither be proven to be Anastasia nor proven not to be. Members of the Romanov family who had escaped the revolution met with her. Some of them were convinced she was genuine. Others were equally certain that she was not. She knew details about life in the imperial court that seemed absolutely impossible to explain, but she also made a lot of claims that didn't add up at all. Anna Anderson married an American professor and settled in Charlottesville, Virginia, where she lived until her death in 1984. And it was not until 1994, a decade after her death, that DNA testing definitively proved that she was not a Romanov. Her DNA matched perfectly with that of a nephew of a Polish factory worker who had disappeared in Berlin shortly before Miss Unknown appeared in the canal. And yet, even after the DNA results were published, the story didn't stop. People continued to debate the findings. New theories emerged. The question had taken on this life of its own, one that evidence alone seemed unable to fully extinguish. Why? Well, I think that the answer to that question is also part of the answer to why this musical exists, and to why it continues to travel the world and to be here today. So at the center of tonight's story is a young woman named Anya who does not know her own name. She has amnesia, a condition that has erased not just specific events from her life, but her entire sense of who she is. She doesn't know where she comes from, who her family was, or where she belongs. Someone told her she was called Anya, and she has held on to that, along with fragments of things she can't quite identify. A melody, a feeling, the name of a city, the ghost of a memory that she can't locate or verify. Now, amnesia is a medical condition that comes in many forms. What Anya experiences is something closer to what neurologists call dissociative or psychogenic amnesia. This is where the loss of memory is not caused by physical brain damage, but by trauma that's so overwhelming that the mind protects itself by severing access to the past. So the memories may still exist somewhere, they are simply unreachable. Now, in some ways, the show invites us to think of it as a memory play, as a story told through the fog of what we remember, what we've lost, what we need to believe. And that fog is much more familiar to us than we might like to think. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, a distinguished professor at the University of California, Irvine, and one of the world's leading experts on human memory, has spent decades demonstrating that memory is far less reliable than we assume. As she puts it, memory is like a Wikipedia page. You can go in and change it, but so can other people. Her research has shown that facts, ideas, suggestions, and other post-event information can modify our memories, and that entirely false memories can be implanted and genuinely believed. We tend to think of memory as a recording, so as a fixed archive of what actually happened. But neuroscientific research tells us something much more unsettling. Memory is not a static entity. It is highly malleable and subject to continuous modification. As our memories undergo revision, reinterpretation, and decay, so too do our perceptions of ourselves, which raises a deeply uncomfortable question. If memory is the foundation of identity, if we know who we are because we remember who we have been, what happens when that foundation is damaged or taken away? Research on amnesia offers some surprising answers. Studies suggest that amnesiac patients often retain facts about their identity and life story, even when episodic memory, those specific events of their lives, have been severely disrupted. In other words, there may be something in us that persists even when the memories don't. A self that exists between the stories we tell about ourselves. Anna Anderson herself, when asked during a 1978 interview to prove who she was, replied, "How shall I tell you who I am? In which way? Can you tell me that? Can you really prove to me who you are? Can you believe it? You either believe it or you don't believe it." It's a much more profound set of questions than might first appear. So why this story and why now? Well, Anastasia endures across languages, across generations, across a century of telling and retelling, because at its heart, it's not really about Russian history at all. It's about identity. It's about belonging. It's about the search to understand who we are and what happens when the answer is taken from us or was never given to us in the first place. What does it mean to belong to a family, to a country, to a community, a history, a place? What does it mean to belong to ourselves? What do we do when those things are lost by war, by displacement, or time, by the simple fact of not knowing? Those are not historical questions. These are questions being asked right now by people everywhere at every age. There's a moment in the second act of tonight's show, a conversation between Anya and the Dowager Empress, in which the Dowager says something that cuts to the heart of everything. You cannot be anyone unless you first recognize yourself. Tonight, you are stepping into a story that has been told and retold over 100 years, in whispers and courtrooms, in films and concert halls, in languages that span the globe. A story that asks questions it cannot fully answer and doesn't pretend to try. What it offers instead is something that only live theater can really give, the chance to sit with those questions together. Thank you, and enjoy Anastasia the musical.